We're on to season 7, baby. Welcome to season 7, episode 1. You know what that means? New season? Episode 61. We're on our way to the funny number. I got nothing better than that for a cold open, so Hello, and welcome to Temple of the False Pod, where our decks are not optimized, but our plays sure as heck are fun. I'm Andy.
I am Bruce!
It's Wednesday, here in Boston, Massachusetts, and the skies are surely clear. Coming in at 6'3"?
4, baby.
6'4", and the pride of every good mother's bride. The Canadian from the I just quickly lost steam. But hey, we're back with season 7. Season 7. I have lost count. It's episode 61, season 7. You can see how I can get confused. It's May, baby.
Yes.
Which is a very weird feeling to say in the middle of March. But it's May. We have made it through so many things. We've made it through BrewCon. We've made it through the release of Streets of New Capenna, which, as of recording, spoiler season hasn't even started.
I'm going to tell you right now, Streets of New Capenna, I love it. It's awesome.
Oh, it's so cool.
Everything I know about it is amazing.
The colors. We got green.
Yeah.
We got red.
Yeah.
We got black.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got white.
Yes.
We've got colorless.
Yes.
They're all there, baby. All 5 of them.
All 5 of them. Yes.
No, I'm excited. I hope to get a new legendary for my new commander deck. Because I'm always making new ones. But man, wow, what a spicy finale we had 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that
3
was
weeks
incredible.
ago. It was amazing. Such good decks. such a solid, clean theme.
It was exciting. I was really impressed with yours, actually. I thought
thank you.
You did an amazing job.
Well, Bruce, I wish I could say the same about you, but it was like you set the bar so high that like you how often can you actually clear it?
Well, you're right. I just, you know,
your decks are so
wasn't something. It just wasn't there this time, and I don't know why.
It was so close to being your splendid deck building prowess that like it was like a 98 instead of like a 99.
I was really hoping it would be my ultimate triumph of 60 card casual. Unfortunately, no.
Let's
jump right into this.
I've had a weird week in Magic this week.
Yeah.
A lot of weird negativity. On my way home, I was listening to the new GLHF about the arena update.
Yes.
With all the like them talking about the economy of arena, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard an episode with them being so negative. And it was good to hear, but it is also like arena is kind of bleh. I have my own issues with arena, not to mention it helps me put off doing literally anything of substance.
I don't need arena for that. I have no issues with arena.
But you know, between that and having just like a couple rough games over the past month or so, I just like I'm worn. And I want to take out my anger on the people who made me angry. And that's our topic for today, is vengeance. Bruce, you're the expert of vengeance. What do we have planned here today?
If I'm the expert on vengeance, it's only because I've had so many people take it out on me. There's 2 parts to the topic. One is vengeance as a strategy, how it gets used in games, how much of it carries forward into the next game, just sort of as part of your strategy, as part of your awareness when playing. I just want to talk about vengeance and how that works. The second part, I want to talk about when vengeance is your strategy, the entire strategy. There's nothing else. The idea that you are making it known to all of your opponents that I intend to enact vengeance on the first person that swings at me, and they're just going to die. That's the entirety of the strategy. So I want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, it's so easy to fall into that as a strategy, but when it is, we'll talk about that later, like you said.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
All right, so let's start with the basics. When you are attacked early on, so we're in the early parts of the game. Everybody's got one small creature, and someone decides they're going to swing. So they're trying to make their decision as to who they're going to swing against. So they opt to swing at you. You take the hit because you can't block, not blocking, whatever the reason, you take the damage. And then on your turn, you look at the board and you ignore the fact that you've just been attacked. You're not going to go for vengeance. You're just looking at the board state. What makes the most strategic sense? Does it make sense to swing at the person who swung at you? Does it make sense to swing at somebody else? Does it make more sense to just simply wait, keep your creatures back, and not do anything that turn? Now, a lot of this is going to be table dependent. It's going to depend on your metagame, but I will say that you really do have to take the vengeance factor into account. And this is sort of where I want to start. If you don't swing back at that player for their attack, I mean, you can not do it one time, but if you consistently simply look at the board and make your decision, then everybody at the table is going to quickly realize you can swing at Bruce, and there's not going to be any repercussion. And is that really where you want to be?
Do you want to be the tallest pushover in the room, Bruce? Because I know I'm the shortest. So
I do not want to be the tallest pushover in the room. I don't want to be the pushover in the room. There's no if that's the attitude that develops for your play group, well, then you might as well take your life total and push it down to 35 to start, because that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Whenever, at the start of the game, everyone is going to immediately swing at you because they know that as long as they've got some kind of defense up, you're not going to swing back because you look at the board and you decided what's best, and it's rarely ever to swing back. So, but then you're starting at 35, and why would you want to do that? So you really do want to take vengeance into account when you make your decision. Even if you're not particularly feeling vengeant, you just look at it and understand that sometimes you got to swing in hard, mm-hmm. or at least reply in kind and make it clear, okay, tit for tat, coming back at you.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, a lot of times when that happens, you're leaving yourself wide open to everybody else. Now, maybe they will attack you, maybe they won't. The person who swung at you may choose to swing right back, in which case you need to be having a discussion with this person immediately. Don't wait, because it's going to turn into a one-on-one battle, and pretty soon you're both down 10 life and looking at each other like, okay, can we stop this? Because we're only hurting ourselves at this point.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the things that our play group has trouble with is stopping that like bickering, essentially, to actually say anything. Because like I think for the most part our play group really doesn't do much of the politic thing, even if it's just as small as like we can agree that we're not the threat here, right?
Right. Our group tends to keep that sort of thing to a minimum, but I do recommend you do want to voice it. Make sure, especially once you start getting swings at you, swings back, they swing at you again, you swing back. Now you're creating a trend back and forth.
Either one of you can stop it. Yeah.
Right. And you have to be willing to be like, okay, look, can we just stop?
Yeah. And I think too, like with that though, like there are other ways to get about like, oh, this person attacked me unprovoked. I mean, unprovoked. You're playing a game where you want to win by taking everybody else out. there was like no clear reason why it was me over the other two. So you want to somehow get back at them. It doesn't necessarily need to be combat. I mean, combat's the most obvious because they attacked me, I attacked them. Life points. But like it could very well be removal, counter, whatever.
Right.
I mean, again, that can snowball. That, you know, ping pongs back and forth, and you end up in this 1v1 rather than a 4-player game.
Right, and you definitely don't want to end up in that. It's, you know, it is one thing to take a couple of points of damage early on because, you know, somebody has a creature out early, and so if you're taking 2 points, that's fine. You want to have your opponents, they don't even necessarily you don't necessarily have to swing back, but they should understand, they should expect that by doing this, they have pushed themselves higher on your threat assessment. So that when your turn comes around, all things being equal, you're going to swing at them.
Yeah.
And even if they're not perfectly equal, maybe they're not the strongest, maybe they're just underneath, they should know that that sort of thing, you know, it's like, look, if you were targeting me because you think I'm a pushover, then think again and wrap them once on the head. But you don't want to have that reputation.
Right.
You know, you also don't need to be, you know, I'll kill you kind of reputation either. Just if somebody swings at you, it should be because it's just your turn.
Right.
You know, you got to swing at somebody. This time it's going to be you. Next time it'll be somebody else.
Right.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But people should know that, you know, you will think about this. You know?
Yeah, and I think, you know, a couple seasons ago, I think it was like season 3, we had an episode about like what to do with early game. Like it's important, but it's not like super important, but also like it's more than just putting the land, passing.
Yeah.
And I think that this kind of sees both sides of like, just start attacking. Just do it. Like you have creatures on the board that can do damage, they can get through, attack.
Yeah.
It helps get the game going. It helps, you know, any sort of weird feelings. But also it definitely shows that you're committed to bringing the game forward. And the other side is if you're the one being attacked, you no longer really have much of like I've got this spell that, you know, will deal X damage to target player's face. It is an example.
Right.
But I want to play it. I've got all this mana to play it. What do I do? Who do I aim for? And it's like, well, one, threat assessment.
Yeah.
But if it's like relatively even and like you're up top,
yeah,
then you have a reason finally to choose X player. Because I mean, Vengeance. Obviously, don't bring it across games as much as you can, but you know, it does help push the game again further.
Yeah.
Where you now have a reason beyond just beyond like, oh, let me just roll a dice and see who I'm gonna attack this turn. Like, that's not fun.
Yeah. Oh, the instant somebody starts rolling the die because they can't decide,
just raise your hand. Like, just attack me, please.
Dude,
just get this over with.
No, dude. Now I'm coming after you because now you're a freaking wild card. It's like, no, make a decision, pick somebody, and unfortunately, as soon as you start saying that, you become that person.
Yeah.
But oh no, die rolling. That's a whole other podcast, and I have strong feelings on that.
Yeah, we'll do a reassessment of our threat assessment episode.
Yeah.
Where we'll say almost exactly the same thing as we did before.
So Andy, you had mentioned something else in passing that I did want to talk about, and the idea of Vengeance carrying forward to the next game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe this puts me in the minority, but I'm okay with a little bit of that coming over to the next game.
Yeah, I think it has its place. I think for all intents and purposes, it ties into the threat assessment of it. I think that if somebody used their resources to do a bad to you, then they thought you were a threat, but like it also shows how much of like a threat they are. And I think that there is a bit of a meta call toward threat assessment of like, all right, like I know how this player plays. I know that they're willing to just do whatever to whomever. So might as well use that to push their game to an end, whether it's the next one. I would say that like maybe hold off on like bringing it week to week, but if you're playing multiple games in a night, then yeah, I think that it
Right.
absolutely holds power.
Just last week,
Yeah.
whoever wins the first game, they tend to be the one who take the first shot in the next game.
Yeah.
That's just sort of how our group goes. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you had to make a decision. Probably should have made it on an in-game aspects, but when it's that early in the game, there's nothing really that substantial. So you just picked somebody and you picked the person who won the last game. Fine. That I have no issues with that. For me, I will take that into... I don't tend to take it any farther than that, just because the farther you get into the game, the more substantial, the more information that you have to make a decision. And I'm not going to carry forward the fact that you did something to me in the last game and make that my big decision maker in this one. However, if I'm in a kingmaker position in a 3-player game, normally I try not to do anything. I try not to lean one way or the other, and generally speaking, that is still putting somebody into the position of the winner. But I try not to actively do something that gives the win to one player.
Right.
However, if I think I got hosed the last game, I don't mind tapping up this thing, doing something to that player, and just being like, "Remember that last game?" And then walking out of there. Because at that point, it's funny. Because there's nothing on our games. The winner doesn't get anything. So in the end, all I did was pick who wins this game. But the person who loses the game, especially if they lose it because of what I did, well, did they really lose? I mean, technically speaking, yes, they did not win that game, but they can think in their own head, you know what, if Bruce hadn't been a jerk, then I'd be fine. And, so I sort of look at situations like that as that's fine, because there really isn't any sort of, there isn't a discussion on play as to what's the best play in that situation, because either one person kills me and wins, or the other person kills me and wins. There's no winning for me. The only thing I have left at that point in the game is to decide who is the winner. So
and that's no fun.
No, it's no fun, but at the same time, how do I decide who the winner should be? Well, if I look at the last game and say, yeah, that guy attacked me for 10 points of damage when he could have swung at somebody else who was probably somebody who should have swung at. I'm going to take some vengeance here. I'm okay with that. Not ideal, but it's certainly a spot where I do it.
I think it really goes to stand on how much how little stakes there are in our games. Like sure, we want to win, but
these are casual games. I mean, in the end, most of the time, nobody remembers who won. They remember who made these great plays or the cool play. And honestly, if me making a decision and then following it up with "that's what you get for whatever," then that's something that people laugh at and remember later on.
It's things like that make me hesitate to use counters ever, because it's like, we want to do those big plays, especially in Commander. I'm not gonna go on this diatribe of counters, but it is it is poignant to be also like, oh, well, like, this guy stopped my huge play last game. Andy is gonna feel it. Like, like I'm gonna attack him instead of Bruce. So it's, not that it should be even a reason why to not counter things, but it's a reason that, like, I'm like, I don't want people thinking poorly of me outside the games. If I'm just gonna counter every huge thing that happens.
Yeah, and I will say that, when it comes to vengeance, obviously it, sure, it carries forward in the next game. Just, don't make it the be all and end all.
Right.
Maybe somebody came around in the last game and slammed the knife deep into your back, but you can't make the entire next game all about getting revenge for that. That's just you're going to take the fun out of the game.
Yeah, and I think too with that, like, it really it hits. You just ruined 2 games. You ruined the last game for yourself for feeling sorry. You can feel bad, don't worry. But like, you if you were feeling strongly enough about this that you're taking it into the next game, that last game sucked for you. This one sucks now because you're focusing so hard on punching back.
Right.
And just have fun with the game. Like, let things slide, but also, like you said, like, it's funny. Like, it's funny to be like, oh, like, this whole thing hinges on this one moment. Let me make the choice. It's the guy who screwed me over last game. Because comedy's tragedy plus time. So, amazing. But speaking of time,
yes.
I think it's time to throw to our sponsors. We'll be right back. Friday!
Check out your local game store this Friday for Monster Friday Night Magic. We've got all kinds of Commander games, we've got drafts, we've got sealed, we've got it all. For only $4.99, you can get into the store and get all the games you want, all day, all Friday. We'll sell you the whole seat, but you only need the edge.
And now, back to you. Wow, we had an amazing break. I hope you did too. I hope that your ears, your heart, your mind all exploded with joy and maybe volume. Welcome back. We're talking about vengeance today on this wholesome episode of Temple of the False Pod. We're talking about when you get hit, do you hit back? My mom told me no, but I have learned, maybe through therapy, that she can be wrong a lot of times. So, when it comes to Magic the Gathering, the card-based tabletop game, when someone attacks you and you take damage, it hurts your feelings. And it is okay to exact revenge every single time, even if it means ruining friendships.
I might not go that far.
Makes one of us.
When it comes down to it, it's, how much revenge do you want to enact? Is it a tit for tat? They hit you for 2 damage, you hit them for 2 damage, you call it good? Or is it more of a deterrent action where, no, just to let you know, you swing at me for 2, I'm going to swing at you for 4, because I don't want you to be swinging at me, and I want you to understand that there's a penalty, that I am punishing you for doing that. And it becomes a case of how much do you think is enough, and even is any amount enough? Or is it just, you need to remind them, just keep that in mind. I'm noting that in my little ledger over here, and I'll be coming back at a most inopportune time for you. More what I want to talk about for the second half is not the idea of vengeance as part of your strategy. It's the idea of vengeance as the entire strategy. Now, what I mean here is the player who simply comes to the table and makes the announcement, whoever swings at me first, whoever does the first point of damage to me, I'm all in on you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to come at you until you're dead. So just understand that my vengeance is not 1-for-1. My vengeance is you dead. That's how it's going to go. Now, the idea behind this strategy is sound when you look at it from a very short-term perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea behind 1v1, isn't it?
Well, it works in 1v1 because what other option is there? But the idea is that everybody knows that this is your response.
Right.
So, and if they believe you, then why would they attack you? Or at least why would they be the first one? Because they know that if they're the first one, then they're just going to have to deal with you the whole game. Every turn. You're not going to care about anybody else but attacking that guy. So, do I really want to be that guy? So, no, I don't. Because I don't want to have to deal with you coming at just me and ignoring the other players. Because I'm trying to win the game. And having you focusing solely on me until you're dead means I got to burn up a lot of resources to protect myself.
Right.
And I still have 2 other opponents I'd like to try and kill as well. So, do I want to be the one who does that first point to you? No. I would rather leave that to one of my opponents. Because, you know what? Then you're helping me win the game. Because you are crushing on them really hard. Now, the whole point of this is so that no one attacks you. And you get to build up. So
seems sound.
Right. Once everybody knows that this is the case, if they start giving you more time, well, now I don't need to include as much ramp in my deck because I've got more time. I know that I'm not going to have to deal with anything for a little extra while. So I can take 1 ramp card out of that deck. I can take 1 of my card draw cards out of the deck, and I can replace them with bigger, nastier cards that do stuff beyond just simply adding mana and drawing cards, because I'm going to have more time, and more time in a game means more mana, more cards. So I can afford to alter the way my deck looks, because I know I'm not going to have to defend myself early on, because everybody knows, yeah, you don't swing at Bruce, because then you're never going to win that game. The problem is that this warps the game. This stops being a game of 4 players playing Magic and turns into a couple of 2-player games.
Right.
A couple of 1v1 games. Because
I mean, it definitely turns it 1v1 for you. But what about the other 2?
Well, the other 2, they have a choice. They can attack one of the 2 players that are getting attacked. So they can either gang up on the vengeance player or the other player. Now, generally speaking, as somebody who's been in this situation, I don't get involved in that at all. Those 2 are already irate at each other, and they're only getting more and more pissed off as the game goes on. Why would I want to deflect any of that rage over to me? So I'm just going to wait. I'm going to sit back because they're pounding the heck out of each other, and I am now getting the bonus that the vengeance player wanted of no one attacking me. I get to build up my deck. Unless, of course, the other player, who's also sitting there, decides he wants to swing at me. Now, if he wants to swing at me, then there's 2 1v1 games here. Mm-hmm. Well, I signed up to play a group game. I wanted a 4-player game. I wanted a group setup. I didn't want it 2 1v1 games where some player who gets strong crushes one of the opponents and then now gets to wait for the other 2 guys to duke it out and then pounds on the remainder because he's that powerful. I wanted a group game where the strongest player can get taken down by a group of other players, not where the strongest player doesn't get attacked by anybody other than the weakest one. That doesn't make any sense to me. And if the other player who's not involved in this 1v1 battle with the vengeance player and the other guy, if he chooses to swing in on one of them, even better for me. Now nobody's coming at me. So I can build up my defenses, I can set up my cards, I get to do all the stuff with no repercussions whatsoever. I try and stay back as much as I can. I'm not going to burn my instants. I'm not going to burn my destruction spells. Let those guys go at it. Let them draw all their cards and spend all their cards and blast each other to smithereens while I sit there and accumulate and wait to see who the winner of that 3-player game is.
Right.
I'll take that.
Yeah, because they'll, be tired and
right,
lacking resources, probably.
Well, exactly.
And,
so,
yeah, and that's not even to mention the fact that if you've turned it into a 1v1, or, your opponent has, and there are 2 other people sitting there, it just feels like like in high school when you're hanging out with that one couple who like just argues all the time.
Right.
You know, like it's just like nobody wants to be there.
Right.
And even if like it is, however, civil, like there have been games where like the other player is starting to take, you know, revenge and being vengeful toward me because I attacked them once, and I've started to look elsewhere, and then they're still coming at me, and it just feels like whoa, what is going on? And it just, there's a lot of weird feelings going on.
Right. So now, if you're the vengeance player, why would this be a strategy you'd want to employ? Well, for the obvious reason that when it works, it's going to work. You're going to get time. You'll get a chance to build up. You'll strengthen your deck. You're going to determine a lot of the gameplay. So a lot of this makes sense. Now, the downside for the vengeance player is this is going to take some time to build up this reputation, because it's one thing to say to somebody, hey, if you swing at me, I'm just going to swing back at you until you're dead. Oh, yeah, some players just don't believe that. So they swing in anyway. So there's going to be a lot of games when you're going to have to go and you're going to actually have to do what you said you'd do. And every time you do that, you are drastically reducing your chances of actually winning the game.
Right.
Because you're burning all your resources to get rid of this one person, and there's two guys that are just sitting there waiting for you to take out this other player for them so that they can then pound away on you in a weakened state. So you're going to lose a lot of games playing this style, at least initially, until players all start to recognize that, or this in fact is something we don't want to do. We really don't want to swing at this person.
Right, but like as the player, the vengeful one, you can, you know, really stick to your word and continue doing it, and inevitably lose every single time, or not every time. Like there will be the off occasion that you do win, but
if you can get it to the point where, you know, I have now built up my defenses, so I'm so that my defenses are really strong, and I'm doing this and this, and then someone finally attacks you. Well, at that point, you know, you're however many turns in. I don't need to be the vengeance guy.
Yeah.
Everybody knows I'm the vengeance guy if you swing at me early. But as long as you give me time to build up my board and my defenses and everything else, great. You swung at me? Good. Here, I'm going to counter this or do this. And then I'm going to make this play and do other things. And then I start attacking into my opponents to try and win the game.
Yeah. And what gets me about the vengeance player, though, is that, like, if you have the reputation of being the vengeance player, people are constantly second-guessing your ability to read the board state, to do any sort of threat assessment, because, like, you're letting this one, I guess, personality quirk get in the way of, like, doing, quote-unquote, the smart play.
Right.
And after a while, nobody's going to be having fun with this concept, right? Like, from the outside. If you're always the vengeance player, like we said earlier, it has its time and place. You know, generally for a handful of turns, or for a silly one-off thing. But like, there's got to be a point, right, where everyone's sick of your crap about, like, either we can attack him and get attacked in return, and then just not be able to pay attention to the rest of the game, or you just sit there getting poked at while you're trying to play the rest of the game.
Right. Well, and then the other difficulty is that if the strategy works and you start winning more than your share of games because players aren't swinging at you, how long is it going to take till somebody else in the group says, you know what, screw that, I'm the vengeance player. I will not be attacked, and anybody who swings at me, I will wipe them off the board.
Yeah.
Then what do you got? I mean, at some point, your play group starts to self-destruct. So when you can't let it go to the meta level.
Right.
When it gets to that point. I will say, this is something that happened in my group a long time ago. We had one player who just decided that I'm just going to swing at one player whenever that first person who attacks me. And we all knew this because he had done it a few times already, So everybody knew this. And one of the other players who started the game, it was early, he swung at this guy, and the guy looked at him and said, "Are you sure you really want to do that?" And his response back was, "I'm not going to let you determine my strategy. It is your turn. I have swung at other players early on in those games, and this time it's your turn to get swung at." So he swung. I said, "Okay," and did the vengeance thing. And for the rest of that game, the two of them were locked in a battle with the one player who swung at him initially, basically talking to him the entire game, saying, "Why are you doing this? This is ridiculous. It's immature, it's childish," and just went after him verbally. And so the vengeance player's response was, "I told you what I was going to do, and if you don't like it, well, that's too bad. This is my strategy, and I'm sticking with it." And the two of them pummeled at each other. And it was at the end of the game, the player who did the initial swing on the vengeance player picked up his stuff, walked out the door, because this was just BS. So I mean, you have to deal with this. This is not a blame game here. I'm not blaming the vengeance player for running his strategy. I'm not blaming the other player for being, unable to cope with the idea that he's actually doing this. But sure enough, in the next game we played, I got my chance. I looked around the board, and I looked at the vengeance player and I said, "Well, it is your turn." And I swung at him. And it was the same thing all over again, because I'm like, so as this was going on, he took a couple of shots at me, and I said, "Okay, you do understand that taking me out leaves you as the vengeance player, but at this point, it's not working, because I guarantee the next time it's your turn, I'm going to swing at you again, whether you're the vengeance player or not. It just means that I lose that game. I'm prepared to do that. I just simply will not change my strategy based on what you want. And if that's the case, then how does your strategy work?"
Right. And I think too, there's even a strategic reason for you to continue attacking them back. Like, if they're going to continue pummeling you because you just attacked them once, attacking them back is probably correct threat assessment, because they are the most immediate threat to your game.
Well, it is correct, because they've already said before the game even started,
right.
"I am going to continue to attack you until you're dead." So there's no amount of removing a creature and saying, "Okay, I think we're even now," because they're just coming at you until you're dead. So the only response that you can do that's in game is, "Okay, well, then I guess we're racing to see who's dead first."
Yeah, really calling them on that, really sticking it to them.
I mean, it's not even a question of calling them on it. It's like, "Okay, you know what? I'm going to stop this time. I'm not going to swing at you. I'm going to focus on someone else. Doesn't matter. I'm coming at you." Well, then even if I go somewhere else, they're still going to hit me.
Right.
So going somewhere else is just a mistake. So you keep much of your defenses up as possible and swing at that one player over and over again. But like I said, this doesn't create good gameplay. It creates ill will. It's not. This is a path you just don't want to go down with your play group. It's a poor strategy to begin with. I don't believe it's effective. It may have some short-term benefit, but in the long run, it just doesn't work. Especially if you're playing outside of a play group. Then your opponents really don't know if you're going to back it up. So you're going to spend all this time swinging at one player, making that player's life miserable, only to get up and go sit with other players who, again, don't know what your strategy is. So you can't really use that unless you're playing the same opponents over and over again. And if you're doing that, then you're just pissing them off.
Yeah, and if you're not like us, and you have, if you regularly go to your LGS or something,
right,
and you have a rotating cast of players, that list is going to get smaller.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you've got 15 players at your LGS that are all playing Commander, I mean, at some point, players who know your strategy be like, "Yeah, no, I'm going to pass.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I'll play with somebody else, because there are 15 of us here." You find a game with opponents that are willing to deal with your crap, and I will play with someone else, because I'm just not.
You find a game where the other three are going to take you out of the game immediately.
Right. The other option is, or the other consideration is when you've got that many players in your group, it takes that much longer for them to all learn that you are serious about your vengeance strategy. So you're going to lose that many more games before you come even close to start reaping any kind of benefit. And you may not. So why would you be doing this? In the end, talk to the opponent. Talk to these are your friends. Talk to them. Explain why this isn't working. And that, realistically, that's how it ended up at the end of the night. Talk to the guy. Can you try a different strategy? Can we do something different? It's, tit for tat is one thing. Insisting that they die is quite another. It's just not, this is not an effective strategy. And we just talked it. And, at the end of the night, I don't know that he was all that convinced that I was correct, but,
you did your part.
I did my part. And, the following week, it wasn't happening again.
Right. You're really starting to sound like my mother now, Bruce. You're saying that
she's got a low voice?
Yes.
Okay.
And she's 6'6". No, I mean, like, we were talking earlier about you don't want to take revenge and whatever.
Right.
But, like, it has its time and place. And I think that, the first half of the show we kind of talked about using it sparingly. Like, it has its place, and it's a very useful tool. But if you're so deep in it that, like, you're just throwing the game away, you're throwing your friendships away, you're just going to create high tension between people who are already just trying to overcome the conflict that is an EDH game. And if you're just going to, like, it's not even throwing chaos into it. It's just...
No, there's nothing chaotic about this.
Right.
This is a very focused strategy.
And, we talked a little bit in the middle, and I think that we've talked about this on a previous episode, where there is the option to just go full steam ahead and attack that player and don't let them progress their strategy of attacking you, but then you've just become them. And I mean, what it comes down to is talk during the game. Like, talk about, there's this nuance of, like, hey, this person has a stronger commander, or this person has a bigger board presence. Can we stop this for a second to focus on what is going on at the point in the game? Or, hey, can we stop this so that, like, it doesn't progress into me not wanting to come back again?
Right.
Talking is a hard thing to do, honestly, especially when it means being emotionally vulnerable. But sometimes it's worth it. Not even in a strategic way, but, like, in, like, a genuinely good way to what's the word, to have, I guess, to nourish a good playgroup. I mean, this is why you've had a playgroup for the past insert number here,
15 plus years.
That sure, it has also has a rotating cast of people, but for the most part, a lot of people come back week after week. Sometimes people leave for a couple years and come back, whatever. But, like, this is why you're a good dude, is because you're considerate. And I think that's kind of what it comes down to, is just be considerate. That's it. Am I getting the point?
Yes. The key to Commander are the players, your strategies, your deck selection, the cards that are in your deck. Those are all secondary, because if you don't have people to play with, I don't care how good your deck is, you're never gonna win.
But you're never gonna lose either.
If you want to,
or are you the ultimate loser?
Anybody who's playing Commander understands that they're probably going to be losing 75% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that in mind, I think you want to focus on having as many games, as many experiences as possible. And if you're choosing to play a strategy that is going to actively reduce the number of opponents you have, the number of players that you can play with, then what are you doing?
Right.
Then this is not a viable strategy. Remember that it is part of the decision making for the other people in the game. Remember that you don't want to come across as a pushover, and you should be considering vengeance in your strategies, but do not make it the be all end all of your strategy.
Yeah. And I think that so sweetly wraps it up exactly on time. What perfect coincidence.
Boom.
We're Temple of the False Pod, where our decks are not optimized, but our plays sure as heck are fun. I'm Andy.
I'm Bruce.
Welcome back to Season 7. Or welcome to Season 7. Welcome back to the Temple. Thank you for all of you who have been listening this whole time. Thank you to all our new listeners. Thank you to all our sometimes listeners. Thank you to Bruce. I see you.
Oh, thank you, Andy.
I'm so very excited for what this season has in store for us. It's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. I think you can concur on that point.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, have a great night, and may your fifth land be the temple.
Bye!
Wait, before you go, I just wanted to say thank you for listening. You can reach out to us via email at falsepodmtg@gmail.com or on Twitter at falsepodmtg. Bruce is at Manaburned, and I'm at Andy Weekend, though you'll definitely notice I use the podcast Twitter far more often. Now that we've got you here, make sure you subscribe, like, rate us on whatever podcast platform you use. It helps us out. It gets us more reach. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Like a video there. Leave some comments for more casual enjoyment. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with some more timeless discussions about all things casual. So come hang out, and may your fifth land be the temple. Bye-bye. Should I do my best, Bruce? Bye!